Chosen one, they tried to keep you asleep. They wanted you to believe you were ordinary, that your struggles were random, that your pain had no meaning. But something deep inside you has always told you otherwise. You have felt the pull, the whisper of something greater, something waiting for you. And now, at this moment, that pull is getting stronger. Your soul contract is activating, and whether you realize it or not, everything in your life has been preparing you for this. This is not a coincidence. The signs are clear, and today, we are going to uncover what they are. Have you ever felt like you were different, like the world around you was somehow out of sync with what you truly knew to be real? No matter how much you tried to fit in, something always kept pulling you in a different direction. That's because you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to wake up. Today, I will reveal the 5 undeniable signs that your divine contract has been activated, signs that you are being called into the mission you were meant to fulfill. This is not just another video. This is confirmation. If you feel like this message is speaking directly to you, like and leave a comment with the number 77, because acknowledging the call is the first step to walking in it. The first sign, an unshakable restlessness. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when the world they once knew begins to feel different. It is not always a dramatic or sudden revelation, but rather a slow, persistent shift that refuses to be ignored. The things that once brought comfort no longer feel the same. The friendships, the habits, the routines, everything that used to fit neatly into your life starts to feel like a cage. It is as if you are living inside a house that was once warm and welcoming but now feels too small, too suffocating. No matter how much you try to return to the familiarity of your old ways, something inside you resists. It is not just boredom or dissatisfaction. It is a deep and unshakable restlessness that seems to pull you toward something greater, something unseen yet undeniably real. At first, you may try to dismiss it. You tell yourself that you are just overthinking, that this feeling will pass, that you just need to adjust your mindset. But no matter what you do, the feeling lingers. It grows stronger with each passing day. You find yourself questioning things you never questioned before. The conversations you used to enjoy now seem trivial, as if they lack substance. The entertainment, the distractions, the goals you once pursued, none of them hold the same appeal. You may even feel disconnected from people who were once closest to you. Where there was once alignment, now there is distance, an invisible barrier that separates you from those who remain unaware of what you are beginning to see. This is the moment when the illusion starts to crack. The carefully constructed reality you have lived in, one designed to keep you comfortable, passive, and unaware, begins to show its flaws. The things you once accepted without question no longer make sense. The truths you were taught now seem incomplete, or worse, deliberately misleading. You realize that much of what you believed was never truly your own. It was given to you, shaped by those who never wanted you to see beyond the surface. The restlessness you feel is not a problem to be solved, but a signal that something deep within you is waking up. The Bible speaks of this moment in ways that are often overlooked. When Jesus called his disciples, he did not choose them from the powerful or the wealthy. He chose fishermen, tax collectors, and ordinary men who were living lives that, on the surface, seemed stable and predictable. But when they heard his call, they felt that restlessness. They could not stay in their old lives, even if they tried. Peter and Andrew left their nets behind. Matthew abandoned his position as a tax collector. They did not fully understand what they were stepping into, but they knew they could not remain where they were. The same is happening to you. You may not yet see the full picture, but something inside you is telling you that the life you have been living is not the life you were meant for. This awakening is not without its struggles. The restlessness is both exhilarating and painful. There is a thrill in realizing that there is more to your existence than what you have been told, but there is also loss. The more you embrace the call, the more you find yourself at odds with those who are still asleep. Some may accuse you of changing, of being different, of becoming distant. And in a way, they are right. You are no longer satisfied with the empty conversations, the meaningless pursuits, the distractions that once filled your days. You crave depth, truth, and purpose, but the world around you is designed to keep people from seeking those things. This is why they try to keep you distracted. They fill your life with noise, with endless entertainment, with obligations that consume your time but leave your soul empty. They want you to believe that this restlessness is something to be fixed, that you should suppress it, drown it out with more work, more distractions, more conformity. But you cannot go back. No matter how much you try to return to the person you once were, something within you resists. The more you attempt to ignore the pull, the stronger it becomes. In the story of Moses, there was a moment before his great calling when he was living in exile, tending sheep in the wilderness. He had once been a prince of Egypt, raised with wealth and privilege, but after fleeing, he spent years in isolation, far from the life he once knew. But something inside him never let him settle. There was always an unrest, a feeling that he did not belong in either world, the palace or the wilderness. And then one day, he encountered the burning bush, and his true purpose was revealed. What seemed like years of wandering was actually preparation. What seemed like distance from his old life was actually the path to something greater. The same is true for you. The unease you feel is not meaningless. It is the sign that your spirit is awakening to something beyond what you have known. The enemy knows this. That is why they try to convince you that you are lost, that this discomfort is a sign of failure rather than growth. They want you to believe that you should settle, that you should ignore the call and return to the safety of the familiar. But you were never meant for a small life. You were never meant to stay in the place where they want to keep you. That unshakable restlessness is your proof. It is the fire inside you that refuses to be extinguished. This is why so many people never step into their true calling. They fear the discomfort, the unknown, the idea of leaving behind what is familiar. But the path of the chosen is not one of ease. It is a path that requires leaving behind the world as you knew it and stepping into something greater. It requires trust. It requires faith. And above all, it requires the willingness to embrace the restlessness instead of resisting it. If you are feeling this shift in your spirit, if you can no longer look at the world the same way, if you feel that everything in your life is leading you towards something bigger, then this is your confirmation. You are not imagining it. You are not alone in this. What you are experiencing is real, and it is happening because your soul contract is activating. You are being prepared for something greater, something beyond what you have been told to expect from your life. And this is just the beginning. The journey ahead will not be easy, but it will be worth it. The next sign will reveal why everything in your life has been shifting, why certain doors have closed, why you have been experiencing loss and disruption. What seems like chaos is actually divine alignment. Everything is unfolding exactly as it was meant to. Stay with me, because the truth is just beginning to unfold. The second sign, divine disruptions in your life. There are moments in life when everything seems to fall apart at once. Friendships dissolve without explanation. Relationships that once felt solid begin to crumble. Career paths that seemed so certain suddenly close off. And the places and people that once felt like home now feel distant and unfamiliar. At first, it feels like chaos. It feels like punishment. You wonder what you did wrong, why things are not working the way they used to, and why, despite all your efforts, you cannot seem to regain control. But what if this breaking apart is not destruction but transformation? What if what feels like loss is actually divine intervention, clearing the way for what is truly meant for you? Disruption is not a sign that you have lost your way. It is often the clearest indication that you are being redirected to something greater. God does not allow things to be taken from you without reason. When you are chosen, when your soul contract begins to activate, everything in your life that is not in alignment with your purpose must be stripped away. The friendships that no longer serve you, the relationships that keep you stagnant, the career that is not part of your divine path, all of it begins to unravel. And though it feels painful in the moment, this process is necessary. Because if these things remained, they would only keep you tethered to a reality that is too small for the person you are meant to become. The Bible gives us a powerful example of this in the life of Joseph. He was betrayed by those closest to him, sold into slavery by his own brothers, and unjustly thrown into prison. To an outsider, his life appeared to be nothing more than a series of tragic misfortunes. But in reality, each of these events was carefully orchestrated to place him exactly where he needed to be. Genesis 50 verse 20 reveals this truth when Joseph, now in a position of great power, says to his brothers, "But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good." What looked like loss was actually positioning. Had he not been betrayed, he would never have ended up in Egypt. Had he not been imprisoned, he would never have met the people who would later connect him to Pharaoh. And had he not endured years of hardship, he would not have been prepared for the leadership role that would ultimately save nations. Your life is unfolding in the same way. The losses, the disappointments, the doors that have closed, they are not random. They are realignments. If you are experiencing sudden disruptions, it is because God is shifting you away from the things that are no longer meant for you. He is not punishing you, He is preparing you. There are times when you may want to hold on, when you may try to force relationships to work, to make situations return to what they once were. But deep down, you know something has changed. What once felt familiar now feels foreign. The places where you used to find comfort now feel like they no longer fit. It is not because you are failing. It is because you are growing. And as you grow, the things that once surrounded you can no longer contain you. One of the greatest challenges in this process is the feeling of isolation. When you are chosen, you will experience seasons of being set apart. The people who once understood you may no longer recognize the person you are becoming. Conversations that once felt natural now feel forced. Sometimes, those closest to you will not understand the shifts happening in your life, and their confusion may turn into distance or even resentment. This is not because you are wrong for changing. It is because you are stepping into a reality that not everyone is ready to see. Jesus himself experienced this. In John 6, after performing miracles and teaching deep spiritual truths, many of his followers turned away from him, unable to accept the reality he was revealing. The closer he moved toward his divine mission, the more people fell away. If even Jesus faced this, why should you expect anything different? The reason these disruptions feel so intense is because they force you to let go of control. Most people fear the unknown, and when things begin to unravel, the instinct is to hold on tighter, to resist, to fight against the shift. But resistance only prolongs the struggle. The sooner you accept that what is leaving your life is meant to leave, the sooner you can step into the blessings that are waiting for you. Because what God removes, He replaces. And what He replaces is always greater. The friendships you lose will be replaced with connections that align with your spirit. The career path that closes will lead you to work that fulfills your higher purpose. The relationships that fall apart will make space for ones that are built on truth. Every single disruption is making room for something better. In the moment, this can be hard to believe. The pain of loss, of uncertainty, of watching your life shift in ways you did not expect, can make you question everything. But this is where faith is tested. Do you trust the process even when you do not understand it? Do you believe that the divine hand is guiding you even when it feels like everything is falling apart? It is in these moments that your commitment to your higher calling is refined. Because many are called, but few are chosen. And the difference between those who fulfill their divine mission and those who remain stuck is often determined by whether or not they are willing to let go when the time comes. The world will tell you to fight for stability, to do everything in your power to hold on to the things that are slipping away. But when God is the one shaking your foundation, there is no amount of effort that can hold things together. The only choice is to surrender and trust that the breaking apart is leading to something greater. If you are experiencing this shift in your life, if you feel like everything is changing and you do not know why, this is your confirmation. You are not being abandoned. You are being transformed. What looks like loss is actually realignment. What feels like destruction is actually reconstruction. And what seems like chaos is actually divine order unfolding in ways you cannot yet see. You are being prepared for something greater, something beyond what you have imagined. But before you can step into the fullness of your purpose, everything that is not meant to go with you must be stripped away. This is not an easy process, but it is a necessary one. And if you are in the middle of it, take heart. Because this is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of something far greater than you can yet comprehend. The disruptions are not a sign that you have lost your way. They are the clearest indication that you are being placed exactly where you need to be. If this resonates with you, leave a comment with the word shift, because recognizing the divine pattern in your life will help you embrace it instead of resisting it. And if these first two signs are already making you reflect, just wait until you hear the last one, because it is the ultimate test. Most people never get past this stage. The distractions, the resistance, the battles, they all serve one purpose: to stop you from walking into your calling. But if you are still watching, then you are meant to hear this. Make sure to turn on all notifications so you don't miss what's coming next, because the truth you are uncovering is only the beginning. The third sign: intense attacks and opposition. There is a pattern that repeats itself every time someone begins to step into their true calling. The moment you start awakening, the moment you begin to embrace your purpose and break free from the illusions that once held you captive, the resistance intensifies. It is not a coincidence. It is not bad luck. It is a direct response to the power you are beginning to reclaim. The forces that once worked to keep you passive, distracted, and unaware suddenly shift into overdrive, doing everything possible to pull you back into the cycle of limitation. People who once supported you now turn against you. Opportunities that seemed certain begin to collapse. Unexpected losses, betrayals, and conflicts appear out of nowhere. It feels as though you are being targeted, as if the world itself is conspiring to stop you. And in a way, it is. Because the moment you recognize your own divine authority, you become a threat to the system that was designed to keep you asleep. This is something that few people talk about because most do not make it this far. Many will start on the path, feeling the initial excitement of discovering their purpose, but when the opposition arises, they falter. They take the resistance as a sign that they are doing something wrong rather than seeing it for what it truly is: a test. The Bible warns in 1 Peter 5 verse 8, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." The moment you align with your purpose, the attacks begin. The enemy does not waste time on those who are lost, on those who remain comfortably asleep. But the moment you break free, you become a target. Look at the lives of those who fulfilled great destinies in Scripture. Every single one of them faced intense opposition when they stepped into their calling. Moses was confronted not only by Pharaoh but by his own people, who doubted him and resisted the very freedom he was sent to bring them. Elijah, after calling fire down from heaven, was immediately hunted and driven into exile. David was anointed king, yet spent years running for his life, pursued relentlessly by Saul, who saw his anointing as a threat. Even Jesus, the embodiment of divine truth, was rejected, betrayed, and ultimately crucified by the very people he came to save. The moment you begin to walk in the truth of who you are, the world will not celebrate you, it will resist you. The opposition does not always come in obvious forms. It is not always a direct attack, but often something more subtle, more insidious. It can manifest through people close to you, friends, family members, colleagues, suddenly questioning your choices, making you doubt yourself, attempting to pull you back into the familiar patterns you have been trying to escape. They may accuse you of changing, of being too extreme, of losing yourself. But in reality, you are not losing yourself. You are shedding the version of you that was created to fit into a system that was never meant for you. Their resistance is not truly about you. It is about their own discomfort with the changes they see in you. When you awaken, it forces them to confront their own stagnation, and many would rather pull you back down than face the reality of their own limitations. Then there are the internal battles. The doubts that creep in, the overwhelming sense of fear and uncertainty. You may find yourself questioning everything. Was this the right choice? Am I really on the right path? Why is everything suddenly so difficult? These thoughts are not random. They are strategic. The moment you start stepping into your true identity, the enemy will use every tool available to make you second-guess yourself. This is why spiritual warfare is real, and it is why you must be vigilant. If you give in to these doubts, if you allow fear to dictate your steps, you will find yourself slipping back into the very patterns you worked so hard to escape. And yet, despite all of this, there is a deeper truth beneath the struggle. The attacks are not a sign that you are on the wrong path. They are proof that you are exactly where you need to be. Resistance is the greatest confirmation that you are stepping into something powerful. The enemy does not fight what does not threaten him. If your journey was easy, if there was no opposition, that would be the real cause for concern. The fact that you are being tested, that you are being challenged, means that there is something in you worth fighting against. And if the enemy sees it, then you need to see it too. Jesus warned his followers in John 16 verse 33, saying, "In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." He did not promise an easy path. He did not say that stepping into your calling would come without trials. What he did promise was victory. The attacks you are facing are not meant to destroy you, they are meant to refine you. They are meant to test your resolve, to strengthen your faith, to force you to decide whether or not you are truly committed to your purpose. Many people desire greatness, but few are willing to endure what it takes to walk in it. It is important to recognize that not all battles are meant to be fought head-on. Sometimes the greatest strategy is not to engage but to rise above. Not every attack requires a response. Not every battle is meant to be won through confrontation. There are times when the best thing you can do is remain silent, to let God fight for you. Exodus 14 verse 14 reminds us, "The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." When opposition arises, when people speak against you, when circumstances seem to conspire against you, remember that your greatest weapon is your unwavering faith. So what do you do when the attacks come? You stand firm. You refuse to be shaken. You recognize that what is happening is not personal. It is spiritual. The moment you begin to rise, there will be forces that try to pull you back down. But you do not belong to them. You were chosen for something greater. You were called to walk a path that few will dare to take. And yes, it will come with challenges. Yes, it will require strength. But if you stand firm, if you refuse to be moved, the very things that were meant to break you will become the stepping stones that elevate you. If you are experiencing this right now, if you are facing resistance, if it feels like everything and everyone is rising against you, take heart. You are not alone. You are not imagining it. This is not happening because you are lost. It is happening because you are waking up, because you are stepping into who you were always meant to be. And the fact that you are being fought so hard is proof that your purpose is powerful. If you refuse to back down, if you choose to keep walking forward despite the obstacles, leave a comment with the word warrior, because the battle is real, but so is the victory. And this is just the beginning. The next sign will reveal the deeper truth behind why you feel drawn to spiritual wisdom in ways you never have before, why your hunger for truth is growing, and why the things that once satisfied you no longer do. The fourth sign, a deepening connection to God and spiritual truths. There comes a point in your journey when the world as you once knew it no longer feels the same. It is not just that you are questioning things, you are seeing through them. The illusions that once held you captive no longer have the power they once did. Fear, manipulation, distractions, things that once dictated your thoughts, your emotions, and your choices, now seem almost transparent, like a veil being lifted from your eyes. And in the space where confusion used to live, something else has taken root, an insatiable hunger for truth. Not just any truth, but divine truth. The kind that is unshakable, the kind that transcends time, the kind that has been hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to see it. This is not a coincidence. This is your spirit remembering. This is your soul recognizing what it has always known but was conditioned to forget. There is a reason why Jesus said in John 8 verse 32, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." This is not just about knowing facts or acquiring knowledge. This is about revelation. The moment you step into alignment with your true purpose, something shifts inside you. You no longer accept what you are told at face value. You no longer seek comfort in the same distractions that once kept you numb. Instead, you find yourself drawn to prayer, to scripture, to wisdom that speaks to something deeper than your mind. It speaks to your soul. The words in the Bible, which may have once seemed like just stories or doctrines, now feel alive. They are not just text on a page. They are confirmations, reminders of what your spirit already knows. This deepening connection to God is not always an easy transition. In many ways, it can feel like unlearning everything you were taught to believe about Him. The world presents a version of God that is distant, passive, almost irrelevant to daily life. But now, you are realizing that God is not somewhere far away, waiting to be reached. He has always been present, always been speaking. The problem was never His silence. It was the noise of the world drowning Him out. And now that you have begun to listen, you cannot unhear what He is revealing to you. If this resonates with you, if you feel this deepening connection to God growing stronger within you, leave a comment with the word truth. Because acknowledging this shift is the first step in strengthening it. You are not alone in this. There is a reason you are experiencing this awakening now. And what comes next will explain why. Because the moment you step into truth, the forces that once held you back will try to stop you. You have already begun to feel it. The opposition, the resistance, the attempts to silence you or shake your faith. And there is a reason for that. But the final sign is the most important, and it is what separates the truly chosen ones from the rest. This is the moment that defines everything. The final test is here, and most people fail it. Will you? The fifth and final sign. The ultimate test of free will. There comes a point in every chosen one's journey when they stand at a crossroads. It is not a moment of coincidence or an event that occurs by accident. It is a test, one that every person with a divine calling must face. Your soul contract has been activated, your spirit has been awakened, and you have recognized the signs that have led you here. But now, a question remains unanswered. Will you step into your calling, or will you turn away? This is the moment that separates those who fulfill their divine purpose from those who remain trapped in cycles of hesitation and fear. And the truth is, most people do not pass this test. They feel the weight of their calling, they see the path before them, but when it comes time to take the first real step, they freeze. They look at what it will cost them, at what they must leave behind, and they shrink back. This is the final test of free will. Unlike the enemy, who seeks to control, to deceive, to manipulate, God never forces anyone into their destiny. He calls, He reveals, He prepares, but He does not force. The choice must be made willingly, because without choice, there is no true transformation. Even Jesus, in His final moments before fulfilling His ultimate purpose, had to make a choice. In Luke 22 verse 42, He prayed, "Father, if Thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless not my will, but Thine be done." This was the moment of decision. He could have turned away. He could have chosen a different path. But He surrendered, not because it was easy, not because it was without suffering, but because it was necessary. And the same decision is now before you. The reason this test is so difficult is because it forces you to confront everything that is still holding you back. It brings up your deepest fears, your greatest doubts, and the parts of yourself that are still tied to the old version of who you used to be. You may feel a strong pull toward your purpose, but at the same time, a force within you resists. You start to question whether you are truly ready, whether you are strong enough, whether you are worthy. This is where many people stumble. They wait for the perfect moment, for a sign so undeniable that all their fear disappears. But that moment never comes. The path of the chosen requires stepping out in faith, even when everything in you wants to retreat. The Bible is full of examples of those who faced this test. Moses stood before the burning bush, hearing God's call, yet he hesitated. He listed his flaws, his weaknesses, the reasons why he could not be the one to lead. But God did not ask him to be perfect. He asked him to trust. When Gideon was called to rise up and deliver his people, he doubted. He asked for sign after sign, delaying the inevitable. And yet, when he finally stepped into his calling, he accomplished what once seemed impossible. Even Esther, when she was placed in a position of power, had a choice to make. She could have remained silent, comfortable in her position, but Mordecai reminded her that she was placed there for such a time as this. The same applies to you. You have been placed here, in this exact moment, for a reason. Everything you have experienced, the trials, the losses, the battles, has been preparing you for this decision. But no one else can make it for you. You must decide. Will you remain where it is safe, where it is familiar, where you are in control? The choice is in your hands now. No one can walk this path for you. No one can make this decision but you. But if you are ready, if you refuse to let fear hold you back any longer, then leave a comment with the words, "I choose my calling." Because declaring it out loud is the first step to making it real. And though this is the final sign, it is not the end of the journey. This is only the beginning. The path ahead will not be easy, but it will be worth it. Because those who pass this test, those who choose to walk forward despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, are the ones who will see the greatest breakthroughs. This is where everything changes. This is where you step into who you were always meant to be. Your time is now. Do not let them convince you otherwise. If you are choosing to walk in your divine calling today, leave a comment with the words, "I'm ready." Like this video, subscribe, and turn on all notifications, because this is only the beginning. The path ahead will not be easy, but it will be worth it. Step into your purpose. The world has been waiting for you.